Marc Raimondi for ESPN with you today with one of the greatest of all time. How about this? Demetrious Johnson, former longtime UFC flyweight champion, current one. It's a featherweight. What's the one? You're the 135 pound champion. It's called flyweight in one, but it kind of throws me off because the weight classes are a little bit off. So you're the one bantamweight champion, correct?
Flyweight champion.
Flyweight champion, but it's 135.
It's 135. So in America, it's bantamweight, but it depends what organization you go with. But yeah,
Yes.
it's flyweight. Sometimes I still get confused when I start jumping to different weight classes. So don't worry.
Well, hopefully when you're cutting weight, you're not confused and you know exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, I don't mark any hit. Don't worry about that. That's good.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. Of course, you have this big fight, trilogy fight against Adriano Moraes on May 5th in Colorado. Just a massive fight. I think probably one of the biggest fights in one championship history. On top of that, the first ever event in the United States for one championship. You're in the main event of that. How cool has this experience been and the lead up to this fight?
It's been great. I think the lead up to the fight's been like any other fight. We fought 9 months ago. So 9 months is pretty much, surgery, and then you're back in the cage with the person again. So for me, it's another fight, another card. Now we're in America, which is amazing. So my wife and kids and family can come watch me fight and see what I do for a living. And then I'm blessed and I can't wait.
I want to ask you a little bit about Adriano Moraes. He's a guy from American Top Team. He beat you the first time. You came back and you knocked him out, getting revenge the second time. How good is this guy? I mean, how would you stack him up with some of the guys that you've already fought in your career? Because you fought, a who's who.
Yeah, I would say he's up there. I mean, every single person I fought has always brought some different type of challenge. Even Chris Carriasso. A lot of people say, "Oh, Chris Carriasso was that good." I was like, he was on a 5-fight win streak in the flyweight division. So let's put some respect on that guy's name. They all had their challenges that they bring to the fight. Obviously, fighting at 135 and won a championship, the guys I'm fighting are a lot longer. They're bigger than me, to where when I fought the guys in the UFC at 125, they were like 5'3", 5'4". So the range was a little bit different, even though I was on the shorter end of it, but not by that much further. I think the longest other guy I fought was Tim Elliott. So every single person brings a different challenge. And I think with Adriano, the challenge he brings is that he's a long opponent. He has great jiu-jitsu. He loves to counterattack. And he also is very patient. So, you look at the second fight, I was a lot more patient on crossing distance, not exposing myself like I did in the very first fight. I was still trying to get to him in the first fight, but, took a little too much risk and paid for it. In the second fight, I took a little more some risk, and paid for it in a different way, but it ended up kind of working in my favor, I guess you can say. So, every opponent, has something that challenges me.
What has been your experience with, competing outside the UFC? And I feel like there are more great fighters outside the UFC now than there ever have been, whether it be, ONE or Bellator or PFL. It feels like all over the world there are really, these great fighters who are not necessarily in the UFC. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, 1000%. I think at one point they were the prime cream of the crop. They had the best talent. And I think, you look at the landscape of all the organizations in the world, there's great fighters in every organization now. I mean, you look at, Bellator's 135-pound, with Patchy Mix, Rafael Stout, Sergio Pettis, now Pitbull's going there. I mean, that is a deep division. And then you look at, won championships. You look at their bantamweight division with Fabricio Andrade, an absolute killer. I mean, there's great competition outside of, the UFC. I think every organization has a banger division.
This will be your first time fighting in the United States since 2018, when you lost the UFC title to your pal Henry Cejudo in Los Angeles. Any emotions, anything cool about coming back to the States and performing for ONE?
Yeah, I think just the biggest thing is my wife and kids and all my family members get to see me. They were never going to travel over to Singapore. That's a long flight, 18 hours, and then the time zone change. They weren't never going to do that. My wife did, but I can never imagine my children doing that, or even my mother-in-law. My father-in-law has done it. He went to Japan. That's only 10 hours. So that's kind of like the biggest thing for me. No emotions attached to it, because this is my job. This is, how I make money. And yeah, I'm super pumped about it.
You were already in Colorado. You told me before we started rolling. Why is that? Why did you want to get there so early?
Yeah, well, honestly, From my research that I've done, there's two ways to get acclimated to the altitude. One, you either come super early, like 2 weeks before, or you come at the very, very, very last second to trick your body. That way you can't really know what's going on. That's what I heard from cyclists. Granted, cycling and mixed martial arts are two different sports. And so, I did my rounded media in New York City, and I was like, oh, I might as well go to Colorado. So I've been out here for 6 days. So tonight we're going to push it hard to see what my body's going to do. And I still got 2 weeks left. So now it's just, it's the normal day out. Like, I'm just looking forward just to get through the days and then fight and then get back home to my daily routine with the wife and the kids. So, but we're out here early just to get our bodies acclimated to altitude.
Have you felt it? Like, have you felt the difference in the elevation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we trained yesterday. I lifted and just moved around, and then the day before I felt it, but I'm starting to feel my body acclimate more because like I'm working on my squeezes, and my heart rate will get to like 180, but then it'll drop down to like 120, 120 between the rest rounds. So I came in really, really, really good shape for this camp. Like this camp, I ate. My diet was on point by trying to put more muscle on, but you lose it once you stop eating your 145 grams of protein a day and 65 grams of fat and a cup and a half of rice. I mean, I was dialed in on my diet to get bigger because I'm not going to have to cut to 135 for the rest of my life. And I like to be bigger just to, be bigger. So I came in super good shape, and now, my recovery is a lot faster. So we're going to push it at night and see what happens.
There's probably not much of a cut even, right? Even if you are kind of building muscle.
Oh God, yeah, it is. I mean,
okay,
at
sorry.
I mean, this camp, I got up to like 140, 47 waking up, 145 waking up. But I was also like I said, my diet was dialed in. Like every meal I had besides breakfast had like 6 ounces of protein. Like whether it be chicken, steak, salmon, whatever it was, I made sure I brought the scale out, 6 ounces, 6 ounces, 6 ounces. And when you have that much calorie intake, protein intake, your body just starts to hang on to all that nutrition. And yeah, I was feeling great. And so when I was able to give my body that much calories and stuff, I can push harder in the gym and the training and everything. So it's just totally different. But now I'm not having the 6 ounces because I don't have, my scale and all that good stuff. So now my weight's like 141 waking up, and I had Foco de Chao last night, Brazilian steakhouse. I had dessert. We had all dessert. It was bomb, man. So I'm eating good. So when I talked to him, he goes, Demetrious, you can probably make 125. You just don't want to. And I was like, you got it. I don't want to.
And then Moraes is a big guy, right? I mean, I'm sure he's probably walking around that heavier than you are right now. I would guarantee that.
I would assume, but like when we talk, like we're totally cool. There's no bad blood whatsoever.
Yeah.
When we talk, he says he doesn't get over 145. So, but yeah, I mean, he's tall. He's like 5'8". I'm 5'3". So there's a huge height difference. But people are built different. I'm 5'3". The 125-pound champion in one. I think he's like 5'2", but I'm just more dense. I'm just, I guess, thicker. I don't know.
Could you see yourself ever going back to 125 at any point?
God, no, absolutely not. What it does to your kidneys, your liver, absolutely not. And I'm at a point now, like I don't need to. Like, why would I want to go to 125? So I'm the bigger guy. I rather just spite at this. If a guy beats me because he's bigger, good for you. I don't care. But I'm not going down to 125 ever again.
You mentioned in some interviews last week that maybe you're a little bit closer to the end of the chapter than the beginning of the chapter as far as MMA goes. Could this be the last one?
It's definitely, it could be potentially, yeah. I talked to my wife about it, and she says, don't make a clear cut answer now. And I talked to somebody else too who doesn't even fight, and he says you'll know when you know, right? And he says go on vacation with your wife and kids, and just think about it, right? And I was okay. That's my plan. So after this fight, win, lose, or draw, I'm gonna sit down and after the fight, I'll divulge more on my train of thought on this stuff. But yeah, I don't see. I'm 36 now. I've accomplished everything in this sport. The only thing I can see, the only two things I've never accomplished in this sport, and I'll ride this to the grave, is one, I never got on a massive pay-per-view with Conor McGregor, so I get that red penny night where you make $5 to $6 million. And two, I've never became a champ. That's only two things I've never been able to accomplish in the sport of mixed martial arts. The championship thing, not too concerned about that. I mean, I think, 11 consecutive title defenses is way harder. And the Conor McGregor one, or not, it doesn't have to be essentially the Conor McGregor one, but just on a massive pay-per-view where you making like, just that you sell 800,000 pay-per-view points, you do the math, it's just, it's just fucking massive. Those are the only two things I have like on my list of accomplishments that I'll say I wish I would have done it. Just that one.
Is that one still? Is that one still? I think. I mean, that could come to fruition, right? Even if it's not
No,
necessarily.
I don't think.
I mean, the big money right now seems like fighters going over to boxing, right, and making a lot of money in boxing.
I mean, that's true too, but I would have to find a counterpart that has a name like Jake Paul to be able to bring that type of, magnitude. You know what I mean? Unless I got on a Jake Paul, but I doubt that would happen. So those are the two things. Like on my list of like things I wanted to accomplish was win a World Grand Prix, because I grew up watching that in Pride and Dream. Like I'll never forget, the Critical Countdown with Vanderlei Silva. That was an open weight Grand Prix. Vanderlei Silva, Crow Cop, Josh Barnett. I mean, I've seen some of those. I mean, I look at those posters almost every day when I go in the gym. The 18-man or 8-man open weight Grand Prix or middleweight Grand Prix. So I've always wanted to accomplish that. And, I never had on my list to become a world champion in an organization outside of North America, like in one championship. So I accomplished that, but that was like something I didn't really care about. But those were the two things I would say that, the things I never accomplished was champ and just that multi-million-dollar pay-per-view payday.
I still think that payday could happen. I don't think that's. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. Because like you said, I mean, you have done everything, right? I mean, you're one of the greatest of all time. That's no hyperbole. You have 11 consecutive title defenses in the UFC, which is the record. I mean, you like you said, you went to go over to one, and you're the champion there now. I mean, there isn't a whole lot left to kind of tick off, but as you mentioned, that big payday, maybe like I think Nate Diaz is probably going to get a big payday coming up against Jake Paul, as you mentioned, and Francis Ngannou is possibly going over to boxing. It seems like that's kind of a trend right now.
Yeah, I should have more of a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset about, oh, it never happened. But if it happens, it happens. Like I said, I had a list of things I wanted to accomplish. I didn't even have a list of things I wanted to accomplish in mixed martial arts besides the World Grand Prix. If it happens, I'll be truly grateful. If it doesn't, it'll be like, damn. Like if my kids are, 18, 21, they say, Dad, if there's something you wish you would accomplish in your mixed martial arts career, what were they? It would be those two things. Like not wish, where I was like, damn, I think pay-per-view, because championship thing, that's, there's only many people who've done that. So I'm not too concerned. So I'd say pay-per-view points.
Fair enough. Did you do most of your camp in Arizona, or were you back home in Washington?
I was back home. So I did, I think a week and a half, 2 weeks in Arizona with Henry. And then I was back home at AMC Pain Creation. And now we're finished up, I guess you say, camp here in Colorado.
It's kind of heartwarming to see, you and Henry as friends after the two battles you guys had in the octagon. I know that it was never really, there was never any personal bad blood between the two of you, but, competitive, certainly both of you guys are great competitors. And I was just wondering, like, how did this friendship kind of take off with you and Henry?
Well, we're both cool people. We can start there. And I just reached out to him. We got a vacation house in Arizona, and I've always had a lot of respect for Henry and what he's been able to accomplish in mixed martial arts and in wrestling. And so I just literally reached out to him. I was like, hey, dude, I got a house in Arizona. I'd love to come mix it up with you and train. And he goes, yeah, let's do it. Like, we can work together. We've even talked about doing podcasts together and other business ventures together. And, I always tell him, I was like, I want to, I have a huge interest in making sure I want to see him win. Like he's a genuinely good person. I like him a lot. Him and his wife, his beautiful daughter. So yeah, great friendship. And we like to train together, and we like to share. I just talked to him, I think 3 days ago. We're talking about like our fight coming up, and we have the same motive. Like we're both businessmen, and we're both competitors. And when we talk business, we're like, man, we try to get this money to take care of these kids, man. Like we're trying to retire one day, even though he retired, but he came back and he's going to fight again. He's got some stuff dropping on his YouTube channel. So make sure you guys follow that. Where we talked about like the reason why he came back, he's coming back. And then there's a competitor side of us where we're like, how he says, how he's going to approach the fight with Aljo. Then he even asked me, he goes, what do you think about this? And I was like, dude, I think that's a great idea. And I was like, you remember, I gave him some sound advice tips, and he does the same thing for me. I'll tell him, I was like, man, what do you think about this? And he goes, I think, I think there is, but I don't think there is somebody or two martial artists who fight each other who actually confide in each other on how we should approach our fights and actually take that advice from one another. You know what I mean? Like teammates, that's a different story. But like we were both frenemies, as he would say, when I were good friends, where it's like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, dude, you got the skill set. Remember X, Y, and Z. And he goes, that's right, Demetrious. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go play with it today. All right, so yeah, it's great. I'm truly grateful that I reached out to him, and it's been awesome.
I mean, I guess there's got to be like something relatable between the two of you because so few people in combat sports have accomplished the level that you guys have accomplished. You know, whether it's him winning, titles in the UFC and an Olympic gold medal in wrestling. You having the record for most title defenses. Like very few people are in that rarefied air, right?
Yeah,
So maybe there's a commonality.
yeah, absolute commonality, and we both want this same goal. Like you said, like he's accomplished everything you can in mixed martial arts, right? He has. I mean, you think he beat me, became flyweight champion, defended it, beat Marlon Moraes, won that belt, defended it. So what left? Like if you look at the standpoint, like what left is there for him to do? He could go to 145, fight Alex Volkanovski or Yair Rodriguez for that belt. He can do that. But at the end of the day, he says it. Money talks. Like he's doing this for money. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with that either. I think a lot of people get mixed up. Oh, he's only doing it for money. Yeah. Why the fuck are you going to work every day for money, right? So, yeah, and I think we share that commonality where we're trying to make as much money as possible while retire and right off into the sunset.
How would you and last question on Henry, because I don't want to give him too much publicity in your interview, but Henry's
It's
always
fine.
fascinating to me because he plays like this character right in front of the cameras. Like
Yeah.
I interviewed him last week and he was like half in character and half not, and it was like driving me a little bit crazy. And I told him that. But it's like I know that the real guy is like a good guy and like a competitor and like the sport is his focus. But do you see the king of cringe when you're in the gym when you talk with him, or is
No,
it just
no. It's funny because we're talking about like this is the business side of us. And he was like, man, I started that cringe to get people to follow. And I was like, you didn't have to do that. And he goes, yes, I did because it took too long. Right. Like you can look at my story. I was always the guy who'd come, show up, blow the bricks off people, and go off and do my own thing. Never really caught on. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what caught fire, why, now I'm the person. I think probably because this is who I am. You're gonna get what you get. I'm a nerd. I'm gonna go play video games tonight. You either ride or die with me. It is what it is. And now I think that's where my popularity kind of took off. And maybe it could be one championship, promoting me the correct way. I don't know what it is, but I felt like this is where I'm at now is probably the biggest I've ever been. For Henry, he's told me there's time where like people are like, who the hell is this? Where's cringe at? Like, I'm expecting cringe, and he had to struggle with that. And I'm like, dude, you're at the point now where he can be that salesperson where he's like, I'm gonna beat you out your jizz lane, you're nothing, da 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 da, and still be the same person, but he's just got to kind of merge the two together. But but there's no cringe. We laugh, and it's always a good time. Always smiles when we're training together.
okay? So last thing, sell me your trilogy fight. Don't have to be cringy or anything. Please, actually, don't be the king of cringe. But sell me this trilogy fight. Why is it big? Why is it important for one? First fight in the United States for them. Why is it important for me, Demetrious Johnson? Why is it important for Adriano Moraes?
Yeah, I won't even say why it's important for me and Adriano Moraes. Life's going to go on for us, but I'll tell you why this is big for one championship. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are trying to look at the pinnacle of sports organization when it comes to combat sports, look no further. May 5th, Amazon Prime, one championship coming here to North America. One Fight Night 10. Adriano taking on Demetrious Johnson, the trilogy. If you want to see the highest level of Muay Thai, mixed martial arts, kickboxing, submission wrestling, tune in to Amazon Prime May 5th. Don't miss it.
And it might be the last fight ever for Demetrious Johnson.
And it could be my black ass last fight forever. We'll see. Like I said, 36, man, you can't do this forever. So, when I look at my other counterparts, when I look at Habib, when I look at GSP, they walked away from the sport. They could have kept on fighting, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, doesn't have to be on top. Like I'm at a point in my career where I'm satisfied. Like I can truly say, like I'm truly satisfied. I still train my ass off. I still fight. I'm still good. I mean, it's there just has come point in time where you just got to think about that. So, and everybody's like, "Oh man, you think?" I was like, "You come watch me train. You can dictate that, right?" Like I always love when people are like, "Oh man, you have 1 foot outdoor," and I was like, "There's something wrong with that." I'm sure when GSP fought Michael Bisping, he had 1 foot out the door already. He was like, "I'm gonna come back and make this bag and see what happens." So, same with Habib when he fought Justin Gaethje, he had 1 foot out the door too, and I'm sure other great athletes who've retired from not just mixed martial arts but boxing or whatever. I'm sure they have these contemplations in their mind too. So there's nothing wrong with that.
What's a post MMA world look like for you? A lot of video games, some esports.
Oh well, I'm always gonna play video
Streaming.
games. Probably not esports. There's no money in esports anymore. That was a big bubble, and then all of a sudden it just burst. I talking to the videographer right now, learning about cameras. We're talking about what next lens I'm gonna get. I'm gonna do some grappling. I'm just gonna see what happens. Like I said, this could be my last fight or it might not. So I'm literally gonna sit down and contemplate. Like, hey, what's going on? Do I want to do it or what do we want to do?
Sounds good. Demetrious, always great talking to you. Just to piggyback on that, again, May 5th, first ever one championship card in the United States. Big trilogy fight. Demetrious Johnson versus Adriano Moraes 3 for the one flyweight championship. See, took me a few minutes, but I think I got it now.
Hey, baby. Hey, it's a new lingo. I know people trust me. People are like, man, you're a bantamweight fighter now. I'm like, no, I'm flyweight. They're like, oh, but it's 135. I'm like, different organization. They're like, but it's 135. Everyone here is bantamweight. I'm like, this conversation is done. So don't worry about it.
Thanks, DJ. Appreciate it, man.
Likewise.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.